Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Making It Together live educational event, which is Tuesdays and Thursdays with me at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be your host, Josh Ellsworth with Stalls, and we're also doing these at 9 a.m. on our different Facebook pages on Monday, Wednesday, Friday with Jenna. And so hopefully you've been enjoying this extra content while most of us are quarantined, and we're just trying to bring you education out of our homes to keep you going, keep you inspired, let you learn new things during this time. Education out there is at an all-time high. So hopefully you're using this time to invest into your business, whether that's in learning how to decorate shirts, how to design, any of those things. Selling, marketing, finance can all help you as you look to survive this time, and more than survive, come out on at the end of the tunnel as a stronger company, a smarter company than what you started. So there's no doubt that there is a lot of folks in here that don't even have a decorated apparel business. I've been talking to more and more people that are looking to start a business, perhaps with that stimulus check that may come in for you. Looking to invest that into a heat press and looking to get going. So I want to welcome all of you watching, whether you're watching on Facebook, in any one of our groups, from Stalls to Transfer Express to our Heat Press for Profit Facebook group, or out on YouTube. Welcome you all. So good to see you. Ray, nice to see you from New Jersey. Good to see you. Craig, again from Washington. Karen, nice to see you watching on YouTube. Thanks for sticking around until we kicked off here this morning. And Mike, great to see you as always from Canada. And today, I think we have a pretty cool topic. I'll be making a couple projects, from start to finish, and then I'm going to try something new that I was experimenting with this weekend. So I have a hat press here at my home. It's actually out in the garage still. I didn't want to bring it in quite yet because I'm not sure if my electricity in the room can handle all the heat presses on at once. So at some point we'll have to do a dedicated class on heat pressing headwear, so I don't have both heat presses on at the same time. But I want to experiment a bit later and try to heat press a location on a hat, on the front of a hat, with my flat heat press and a special platen, and see if it works. I think it will, but we'll see. But first, want to point you to our survey. So we've been publishing this survey since our very first class. And when you complete this survey, it means you're entered into our giveaway. And we do the giveaway weekly. And I have some giveaway winners to announce from last week. And so I'm announcing those live on air, and we'll also post them out on our Facebook group. And I'll email these folks to make sure we can get you set up with the full sample pack kit that we're sending out for our giveaway. Jennifer Dent from the Higher Press, congratulations. You're one of our giveaway winners. Stephanie Boder from Iger Farm Design and Crafts, congratulations. Josh Jordan from Bravura Graphics, LLC. Adam Burkhart from PGR Graphics and Photography. And Bernadette Nicholson from Bernico Design. So those will be our 5 giveaway winners from last week. We'll make sure we get you guys set up with everything. And if you haven't had a chance to complete that survey, hundreds of you have, but if you haven't, the survey link should be shared with you. Complete that and make sure you tell us what type of content you'd like to see in these live events, and we will do that our best to bring it to you. So I'm going to do some vinyl cutting today, and we're going to get into that here in just a second, but I want to start talking about screen printed transfers. And we've talked about screen printed transfers on here a lot. It's a big part of our business, probably a big part of a lot of your businesses when you're operating. And so I got a nice big box full of different transfers, different samples. And today I grabbed this design to show you. So this is from Transfer Express. It's our screen printed transfer division. And this is our ElastiPrint screen print transfer type. And I'm going to explain the difference a little bit between the different screen printed transfer types to you, and why you may want to take a look at ElastiPrint. And then we're going to press a project with this gang sheet, as we call it. So first off, when you're doing a gang sheet, you want to fill up the sheet with as many designs as you can. As you can see here, we're showing this would be wasted space. So even if you don't have the orders for this logo, it makes sense to put another logo here. As long as it's in the same color, it's not going to add more cost. So if you have transfers from Transfer Express in-house, a good way to tell ElastiPrints is it's typically on the plain white paper, doesn't have the Transfer Express back print that we see on some of our other transfer formulas. So we link to it in the comments, but let's go ahead and take a look over on the Transfer Express website. And it's just transferexpress.com. It's a great time to sign up and order one of our marketing kits to get samples of all these transfers. They are on sale for $35 right now. But if I want to explain the different transfers to you. So I just went to this heat transfer section right at the top. That's our most popular section of the website. And then it will outline the different types of transfers that are available from Transfer Express. So we have screen printed, we have full color, we have water-based, and we have custom rhinestones. So by far the most popular is in this screen printed category. We are actually screen printing onto paper, sending you the transfer, and all you need to do is heat press it. But once you get into there, you can begin to get a little confused with all of the different transfer types. And so I want to point out some of our most popular. So the Goof Proof is our most popular screen printed transfer. This is a standard plastisol ink. It's backed with a good powdered adhesive that gives it some extra opacity. And that means whenever you press Goof Proof to a garment, white stays white, and you're going to get exactly what you see when you order the transfer. And so the benefit here is it's consistent, it's quick, it's easy to use, but it does apply up at 360 degrees. And so when you're pressing at 360 degrees, of course, that can create some problems for heat sensitive fabrics. And so a while back, we came out with the ElastiPrints, which flanks this right-hand side of the screen. That's the one we're going to use today. The cool thing about ElastiPrints is it applies down at 300 degrees, which is a big difference to Goof Proof. So if you're dealing with a heat sensitive fabric, we've positioned ElastiPrints for our heat sensitive, stretchable, polyester fabrics, or it can be cotton polyester blends or tri blends. We see a lot of these blends that have some issues with scorching as well. Some of the other core transfers that are in between here, the hot split is basically our softest feeling transfer. So when you press that, it doesn't have the powder adhesive, so it blends a little bit more with the garment. But what you trade off is you don't have the opacity. And then we have our Polytrans screen printed transfer, which is basically looks just like Goof Proof, except you can press it at a lower application temperature. So those are our four core types. And then after that, I think they're pretty self-explanatory, where you get into all of the special effects. If you've watched my session last week, I accidentally heat pressed a puff design that I thought was Goof Proof, but it looked pretty cool. The completed results, we've definitely done some pearl prints and glow in the dark prints and glitter in our educational videos as well. But today, it's going to be ElastiPrint. So I'm going to answer some of your questions. Keep them coming in here. But first, I want to just go into the ElastiPrints category. And I want to show you, once you order a product from Transfer Express, the application sheet will be in the box. But in case you want to research before, just scroll down and it has all of the tips and application right here. So I can see I'm looking to set my press for 300 degrees for 15 seconds at a medium pressure, and that's a cold peel. So with that in mind, I'm going to come back out to the camera, and we're going to head over to the heat press in just a moment after I look at some of your questions. All right, so let's see, lots of comments. Good to see everybody shouting out where they're watching from. Thanks. I see a lot of familiar names that have been sticking around with us the entire time. Good to see some fellow folks from Pennsylvania, where I'm broadcasting from as well. I'm down in the very southwest corner in what we call the Laurel Highlands area of Pennsylvania, almost in West Virginia. Looks like Main Man asked on YouTube, I'm interested in the new GraphTech 7000. Is that the one being used today? So I'm not using the 7000 today. I'm using the CE 6000. I'm actually using the equipment that I've owned for 4 years that's been in my home. So that's the one we'll be using today. But there's a lot of features that are similar to the 7000. So I think you should get a good understanding of the GraphTech just by looking at that as well. And then I'll see if I can get a 7000 in here for a future session. Let's see. Someone says, I need a heat press like yours. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about the Hotronix AutoClam. And Dax asks, which transfers can be ganged up? And the answer is any transfer from Transfer Express can be ganged, which is the process of putting multiple designs on a sheet. With our traditional screen printed transfers, you need to be in the same colors. All the designs need to be in the same colors. Otherwise, if you bring another color in, you're going to add cost to that. And I'll show you the price grid right after I press it. So appreciate everybody joining us. Thanks for all the questions coming out. Karen, right now we are doing our $12 flat rate shipping out of Transfer Express, and I'll show you a little bit later, but I recommend you just calculate that into the cost of transfer. All right, so let me move my computer, give you a nice rocky view here so we can get over to the heat press. If you're noticing, if you've been watching these, I finally have a microphone where I don't have to wear a headset, so hopefully the audio is coming in clearly. I tested it yesterday with some of you. And I'm going to grab scissors, and because we've gang sheeted, I'm going to trim this design apart. And so I saw a customer's gang sheet yesterday where he had literally about 20 designs up, small logos on the same sheet, and just had them kind of fit in almost like playing Tetris, and then had the trim around them. But hey, you can save on a lot of cost, and don't leave any real estate on that sheet untouched when you're ordering your transfer. So today I'm going to be pressing a couple different things. This is a J America garment with a tearaway label. It's 55% polyester and 45% cotton. And it's super soft and very thin. It's almost like a burnout shirt. Has a little bit of stretch to it. So I thought ElastiPrint would be a great solution to be able to print this. So I'm working on my Hotronix auto open clamshell press. I'm just going to split the garment and thread it on to get to the placement. Now I'm going to do a front and back print on this. So first thing I like to do is pull the garment all the way down, and then I retract it evenly until the collar falls right over the edge. That gives me a nice measurement from this location down. And then for this particular one, I'm going to do the left chest print on front and the full back print on the back. So this says Garfield Mustangs. It's in a neon green ink color. And one thing I like to do is when I'm doing left chest graphics, I like to have as square of edges as I can on my print, because that helps me with alignment. So I'm trimming this pretty much as close to the transfer as I can, because that will help me know exactly where I'm placing it. And neon green's a good ink color to see through here. Let me preheat because I forget to do that often, especially on my first application. Then I'm going to position my design. I'm positioning upside down because of how I have my shirt loaded. If you're looking for good left chest placement, always try to pinch top shoulder on your collar. So that's right where the collar meets the top shoulder. That's a good area to pinch, and do a vertical line down to the center, about 6 or 7 inches, depending on the size of the shirt, to the center of your graphic. And so I know for me that's 6 inches, or a dollar bill is also a good tool where you can have a laser device. There's a lot of little jigs and things you can create if you're doing a lot of left chest placement. So position that into place, and then I'm going to go ahead and lock the heat press down for the 15 seconds at 300 degrees with the medium pressure. I will tell you, I always recommend erring on the side of firmer when you're dealing with screen printed transfers. Where you really run into an issue with screen printed transfers is when you go too light on the pressure. And so this is a cold peel. So I like to just protect my transfer, slide the garment off, and let it cool down to be able to peel the backing. So I'll sit that to the side. I see some more questions coming in. So question is about Cassandra's waiting on artwork approval for glitter transfers now, which is great. How wide is the opening from the front of the autoclam from the top to the lower platen? I don't have I do have a tape measure. I'll tell you right now. That's one of the nice benefits of this press, is how wide the opening is. There's a lot of presses. There's some presses on the market that open wider, but they're not threadable. So I assume when you want a wide opening, you're not going to want to burn your hands. That's the benefit of threading that shirt, because all my placement is at the widest side of the press, not back in here where you're pressing. And so it looks like from lower to top is just over 14 inches wide from the place where you're placing your graphic. So a nice wide opening. So this should be about cool. Give it a couple more seconds. And I'm looking at questions. So we did share a placement guide on our Facebook page. If you need that placement guide, we do have that on our website where you can track it down. And then basically after it's applied, you're just going to peel away the backing. And then we have a completed transfer on the front. So ElastiPrint is great for these heat sensitive fabrics. It has a little bit of just, I'd say, a grippier texture to it. Actually, another sales opportunity, we just helped the customer source ElastiPrints to put on the bottom of medical booties or socks to create kind of a non-slip surface right now. Of course, there's big opportunities in the healthcare market. So ElastiPrints is a great solution for that. Now the back design, same process. I'm just going to preheat and get ready to position it on the back. And again, I have the top edge of the paper in this case that I'm able to measure from the top down. Because of the seam structure on this garment, I did have to leave it hanging over a little bit so I don't scorch up these seams. Anytime you can get that pressing area completely flat, it's really going to help the durability of your application. You're not going to risk any pressure issues. And when you're dealing with any polyester in the garment, you're not going to risk damaging the garment at all. So that's why pillows, pads, optional platens, those are all helpful things to be able to get that pressing area completely flat. And so the reason you'd want to use the screen printed transfer here, of course, is I wouldn't have to cut and weed all of that detail. But the other big benefit of that is if you have a quantity of orders, then you're able to gang all your designs together if they're the same color and be able to press and go. So let's see. I see some different questions coming in. So is the center of the design or the top edge for left chest? So what I like to do, it depends, Denise, on the dimensions of the design. It's tough to give just a straight answer on this one. So usually what I do, assuming it's not an extremely vertical print or horizontal print that's disproportionate height versus width in either direction, if it's a fairly circular or square print that's within reason, what I would do is I would do it to the center of the design at the 6 or 7 inches down, depending on the size. Most people make the mistake on left chest graphics is they place them way too far over underneath the arm. And it's actually really where you pinch top shoulder and bring the vertical line down for a standard neckline. That way you're still getting visibility of the logo. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. I'm going to move this shirt over to the side just to let that cool down for a bit, and we'll give it the final reveal here in a minute. But I want to talk to you now about designing for the vinyl cutter. Still got cables to work with. All right. So just before I leave this concept of screen printed transfers, what I want to do is be able to go over to our website and show you where you can get pricing. So under the product category, any of the product categories, you'll see the ability to view the ink colors or download the pricing sheet. So when you download the pricing sheet, it will open in a separate window. And this is our price grid for our standard screen printed transfers, which is what we just did. And so in this case, we have basically 2 grids. We either have the standard transfers, which it lists goof-proof, hot split, polytrans, or we have the specialty, which is ElastiPrints. Once you get into the category, you can go to the number of colors in your design. So in this case, I designed it on Easy Prints, which is the Transfer Express designer that's available through transferexpress.com. It's a 1-color print. And let's say I was doing 50 of those for a horse show or a rodeo, something like that. It would be $257 per sheet. So keep in mind that's per sheet. So I can gang up multiple logos on the sheet, be smart about your design sizing, and try to fit as many decorated shirts as you can on one sheet. So those are our standard screen printed transfers. For those of you that have been watching, you know that another really important category for your business is these full color transfers. We call our product stretch litho. And so if you haven't heard about stretch litho, make sure you look that up for your business, because that allows you to gang different customer artwork, unlimited colors, all on one sheet, and it's a larger sheet. So I really feel like the stretch litho is more where the industry is heading. Standard screen printed transfers won't go away, but you can build a whole profitable business out of stretch litho because of the way you can do any amount of colors, do fine detail, and gang all of your orders together on one sheet. So that's for another day, another class that we've done, but make sure you look back at our Making It Together. I think it was Making It Together episode 6 on our Stalls TV YouTube page, where I go in depth on that concept and show that product. Okay, so now we are going to talk a little bit about vinyl cutting. So I was thinking about what could I do, and I know a lot of you love seeing the start to finish projects, from the design to the cutting to the weeding to the heat application. And so I went through some of my blank apparel and came up with a style that was 100% polyester performance tee. So it can be any shirt. This is a particular shirt we had in stock, and you'll get to see a close-up of it shortly. And then I was working through some design. So I wanted to make that shirt, and I wanted to make kind of like a matching unstructured cap to go with it. And so in thinking through this, I decided that I wanted to make a quarantine shirt. I know the quarantine shirts are popular right now because you think of where we all are, we're home, and some of us are still shopping online. And so being able to have a website where you can sell online, whether that's through Etsy or eBay or your own Shopify site or your own Spirit Sale site, which is our web store solution, selling online is critical right now. So we're going to create this with the concept of selling it online in this particular region where I'm located. And so I'm in CADWorks Live. So we're going to share the link to you, but it's a free online design software where you can create vector artwork for any manufacturing process. We particularly designed it for vinyl cutting. You can take your artwork out of this software and send it to nearly any vinyl cutter. And so when I was trying to come up with a concept for this design, I went back. I always like to look back through some of the designs I've created in CADWorks, and I've created a lot of them. And there was a particular one that grabbed my attention. Let's see if I can find it here. And when you save on CADWorks, it saves under your login on the cloud. So it has all of your designs that will be saved in here. Maybe I should have opened it before I got started. I know I just saw it a minute ago. I'll try searching. So if you save it under keywords, you'll be able to search it as well. That's all right. We're going to build from scratch. So you guys will see a live view of building from scratch. So I'm going to start by adding some text. And I've seen the saying quarantine and chill. So we're going to create our own quarantine and chill shirt. So when you're in CADWorks, you click on add text, and it will bring you into the text editor. And from there, you can select whatever font you want. You guys know I love athletic, blocky fonts, and I'm going to show you a technique that actually is called a knockout print that punches a piece of clip art through the font. So your font selection is really important for this concept, as you'll see. And you can also upload your own fonts. So in this case, I'm just going to go with a standard line of text, quarantine, and then I'm going to duplicate that text to be able to make my second line of text. So I'm going to use the ampersand sign. Click on that. That's going to be a separate piece. And then last line that I need is chill. So I'll just double click on that, and then I'll be able to type in chill. I was messing around earlier, and one thing I was trying to do is come up with a concept to like space the characters on this, so I didn't have to make this much larger than the quarantine word, but just kind of have it cool in the design. So there is a feature within CADWorks that's called character spacing, which is basically the distance between your letters. You can type in whatever you would want there. It creates some separation in your text and puts that automatic distance between the letters. And so that really allows you to kind of create and the design how you want it to be. And so the effect that I wanted to do here was a knockout print, and I want to run it through the quarantine word. And so with a knockout, it's basically coming up with a piece of clip art that you are going to punch through the word, so you can still see the clip art, but also still read the word. And so in this particular case, I'm just going to go and hunt for a piece of clip art. And I'm doing it, I was looking for like a mountain sort of theme here, and I can just grab any piece of clip art that I want. So in this particular case, I'm going to use these trees in the background, and I'm going to show you a technique to be able to kind of break out this clip art how you want it. So I'll open that piece up, and I'm just going to work with that here for a second. So in any design software, let me zoom. When you have a piece of clip art, it's really grouped and it's reading as one piece. That means I can't select the individual components and delete them from the clip art. But if I go into my wireframe view, I'll be able to see like there are a lot of individual pieces here that I should be able to work with. And so you really need to break this apart. And software like Corel or Illustrator call it different things. In CADWorks, you'll be able to go up to shaping, and you can break it apart either by colors, by regions, or by curves. Now, curves is the most detailed level. So if I break apart it by curves, I should be able to select like this inside element of the log or the inside element of the fire versus the other line. So all of these individual lines and pieces will be selectable and changeable. So that is what I want to do. I want to bring it down to the most minute level to be able to work with it. So when I break it by curves, I can just grab these trees, or I can grab this piece of the fire, whatever I want to do. And so I'm looking, you know, the more silhouette style your clip art is, the better. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete all this stuff I don't want. Really, I just want to be able to drop the trees into the text to create the effect that I wanted. So I'll keep both sets of trees. I'm just going to bring them together, and then I'm going to weld them together. So I'll have a kind of like a more robust tree line. So I'm just selecting both objects, and welding is a tool that you typically can do with script text, but you can also do it with two objects that you want to join together and get rid of these nasty cut lines that are showing in between the objects. So that is up under shaping, and then click weld. So very quickly and very easily, I've created a design. Now I missed this piece here. I don't really want that there. So I'm going to go ahead and break it apart again by curves, and that'll allow me to select that piece and delete it. And now I just have one solid silhouette image. So if I go out of the wireframe view, I can actually colorize this image to whatever I would want it to be, so you can see what we've created. Now, the reason I wanted to do that is because I want to drop this clip art piece into this text. And so I'm going to make it larger. I'm going to make it wider. It doesn't bother me. And I want it to touch kind of these several pieces of text in my design. And so I size the clip art according to the design size, so everything looks good. Hopefully you're following along. So at that point, what I like to do is you have your text that you want to drop the clip art in. You have your piece of clip art. Now I need to show you the technique to be able to kind of punch it through and create the effect. So I always like keeping my original text. So always make a copy of the text that you want to work with through duplicate, and I'm going to bring it down here to work with it. Now I like my clip art to be in front, so I'm going to just select my clip art and bring it in front. Position it exactly where I want on the text object. And what I'm really looking for here is I don't want any like little just pieces hanging over an open edge where I'm going to have like a little scrap that I'm going to have to weed. So I just drop it here, and then I will now select both objects and go up into shaping and hit back minus front, which is going to punch through with that clip art image to create a new piece of text that's kind of like cut with scissors to this tree line. So I clicked back minus front. Now when I move my clip art away, you can see I have this piece of text that has the design punched out, which is really cool. I want to be able to see this differently than my black text, so I'm just going to make it a different color. Now I have this piece. Now I need to figure out how to get these trees within it. A lot of people will just do this, right, and bring it in and create their design. I'm not a particular big fan of that. I like to make it more integrated with what we call a knockout design. So this clip art's kind of done for me right now. I'm just going to move this quarantine text up here and try to place it directly over my other text. And this is more of the look we're going for, to create two cool text elements. Now, I can't just do this and be good to go. There's one more step. You can see a little bit of a black hairline on this left side. So I really need to make sure those are perfectly centered. So to do that, I select them both. I go up to align, and all I'm going to do is center middle of my designs. That's going to perfectly center them for me, because in this whole process, I've never changed the text. So CADWorks has given me some little bit of a lag here on rendering. So while it's doing that, I'm going to look at your questions. I see our team is answering a lot of your questions online. Karen asked this question, I'll take it. Josh, when designing, when would you use Transfer Express over CADWorks? Are there features that are better in one program than the other? And so usually, Karen, I always use CADWorks when I'm designing for vinyl cutting, because when you design in Transfer Express, you're not able to bring that file out of Easy View to cut it yourself. When you're designing in Transfer Express, it's specifically for screen printed transfers. So if I'm vinyl cutting, I'm using CADWorks. If I can make it in Transfer Express, I'm going to use their Easy View designer. Yes, you can create artwork in CADWorks and bring it over into Transfer Express and order it, upload it to them, but you'll save a little bit of money by designing within Easy View. So those are both two really good choices. Okay, so now that I have everything lined up here, everything is centered, I'm going to go to that same command of back minus front, because I have both objects selected. Click back minus front. And now it will take a second to reshape it, but what it's going to do is it's going to punch out that top text, and it's going to just leave the mountains, the mountain range, as their own piece. So it takes a little second because I got a lot of live streaming happening here. So we'll just give it a minute to update. And I'll look back at some more questions. Mike says, from my experience, screen printed transfers are great. Yeah, we agree. So the screen printed transfers make your life a lot easier. It's a really quick and easy way, no cutting, no weeding required. So for whatever reason, CADWorks has taken a minute, but I'm not going to make you wait. We're going to set up our vinyl cutter while it's working. So again, I have the GraphTech CE6000. That's going to be the cutter that I'm using today. I'm going to be cutting this design from two different materials. I'm going to use our thermofilm. This is our material that's typically used for sports apparel. But the nice benefit of this product is, believe it or not, it does have a little bit of stretch to it. And it also has a cool texture to it that adds a nice effect when it's mixed with other media types. It's a little more glossy. So I like it for this more fashion forward design. And then we're also going to use our metallic product, which is a material that can just be loaded into your vinyl cutter. It looks like a foil. It's very bright, very reflective in nature. And that's going to be the other product. So first, I'm going to load the metallic, and we'll start with that into my cutter. So when I'm working with a vinyl cutter, I'm just going to move the pinch rollers to wherever I want them to lock down. Try to see how it's best going to fit in here. So it looks like there's a little grit on the side of the cutter, which is why I'm slotting it here. And then these rollers slide right over that grit on both sides. The thing I really like about the GraphTech is not only can you do large rolls up to 24 inches, but you can do small pieces. Once you load the cutter, I'm going to tell it I have a sheet of material loaded in, and it's going to measure the width, and then it will retract it back to get ready to cut here. As always, you want to do a test cut. Right now, my force is at a 13, which on like a Roland, that would be the equivalent of 130 grams of downforce. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do a test cut and make sure that I'll be able to cut and weed that accurately. I think this is the last product I cut on here, which it is. So I had a nice accurate test cut that I weeded out. And now I'm going to go back to set my point of origin to be able to send my design once I pull it up for you here in the software. So point of origin is just where you want the cutter to start cutting. And so we've set it up. Now I'm ready to take a look back at my artwork, which is finished rendering for me. And so let's take a look at that. You can see it looks the same, but now when I look at the text, I can kind of move these elements away and is completely separate. Okay, so it's really nice when you look at it from that standpoint. And so because I'm going to use the metallic vinyl and the thermofilm, it's going to look really cool. And so the mountain range, I'm going to put in like the bluish metallic vinyl. I'm also going to match this text in the blue. I'm going to do the quarantine word in the Vegas gold. And I think I want to add a little bit more text underneath of this just for a line of text. So let me go to add text, and just to make it a little more personal to the region. So this, I live in Pennsylvania's Laurel Highlands. So we're going to do Pennsylvania's Laurel Highlands. I'm going to challenge myself on the weeding detail by doing a small line of text there. And let's pick a more athletic font. Click OK. And then I'll be able to size it down up here. Make it whatever size you want it to be. And then I'm going to drop it directly under my image to kind of set it off nicely. And again, thermofilm really isn't the best for fine detail. So I think I'll have better luck with the metallic. So I'm going to make this whole blue piece metallic and just the quarantine top part of the text thermofilm. So knockout design. So you see how the mountain range is lining up with the text. It's going to make it fun to heat apply, something really cool to do. And then again, I'm trying to do a hat design as well. So I'm going to use that same mountain range, and I'm just going to size it down to be more of a hat size. Don't mind tightening it up as long as it's the same text. So I got about, really want to get down to about 2.5 inches here by 1 inch. And then I'm going to just knock out an LH out of that to kind of make it match. So I'll pick LH, Laurel Highlands, and then I'm going to select the same font, and then that will knock out of that piece for the design. I think I am. CADWorks is running slow this morning. I think it's my live stream. I have my daughter over in the dining room. She is doing cyber school, I guess, or school from home, whatever you want to call it for right now. And I have myself streaming here in a back bedroom. So click OK. And then I just really want to drop it somewhere where I can reverse weed it out to add just a little element where the hat is going to show through. And I could do the back minus front to truly punch it out, but I'm really not worried about the extra color, because when I cut it, it's just going to cut it through that design. So not a big deal. So once you're all good with everything set up, what I'll do is I will change the mountain range color, because I don't want to, even though I'm going to cut it out of blue, I want to be able to handle it separately when I go to my cutting software. But once you've created this, you can either export it or you can send it to Vector Cut. So if you're using your own vinyl cutter, you export it and then you can import it into your design software. Because I am using Vector Cut, which is a free cut driver that you can download from cadworkslive.com, you can be able to just send directly from CADWorks to Vector Cut. So when I click send to Vector Cut, it's going to say OK, and then it's going to download it into my bottom toolbar. While it's doing that, I'm going to pop back over here and take a look for questions. Open that up. All right, so let's see. Denise loves the metallic vinyl. We do too. That's one of my favorite new products. It just feels so soft. Is there a video on doing the knockout effect on stalls? Yes, there is. On our stalls YouTube page, there is a video that will walk you through it. And I think we just linked it as well. And you can always go back and watch this recording. And is there a way, Mike asks, is there a way to configure cut settings when sending cuts to my Silhouette Cameo? It's hard to align the design. I'm not as familiar with the Silhouette. I know Jenna is, but what I would suggest doing is just match your sheet size and your design software for your Silhouette to your actual material size that you're going to load. And then just looking at your design inside your software, kind of place that. And so that's a nice, I'll do that here with Vector Cut to show you how that works. So this is Vector Cut, what it downloaded to. When I look at this, this is really my cut driver. And so you can see what's representative of the sheet with this blue line. I assume in Silhouette it's similar. And then you are able to mirror your image and select the color that you want to cut first. In this case, I'm going to do the blue and drop it down. Now, sorry, let me Control Z that. Now you can see some extra cut lines in here. I should have cleaned that up in CADWorks. I made a mistake there, but I'm not going to take us back. I'm just going to cut them. And there's really nothing, no design elements that will show because of these. It's just going to be extra cuts that's going to take the cutter a little bit more time. I could have broken this apart and then deleted all of those by breaking it apart by curves within CADWorks. But for time purposes, I'm just going to load it. You can see this material is in the bottom right-hand corner of my design. And then it's about 11.2 inches. I'm going to go ahead and send it to cut. So see, it's cutting back behind me. It's going to cut my Pennsylvania, my fine text first, and then it'll come up and cut the rest of the design. For me, again, we're cutting on the CAD Cut Metallic product, which is a really foil-like soft product when I apply it to this performance t-shirt. The next product that we're going to cut is a product. All right, so I'm having all kinds of fails today, and that's why we're live. So learn from my mistakes. The cutting pinch roller was not locked down on the edge of the material. I had loaded the material crooked, so it's tough to see, but basically this whole material is cutting off track. And when I show you this design, you'll get it. I'm going to quit the job on here and clear it and just send it again when I reload my cutter. But you'll see this whole design was cutting crooked on there. So the material was coming off track. So when that happens, it's best just to stop the cutter. If you can, cancel the job and reload your material. Hopefully you're able to see your cut lines enough so you can reprogram your point of origin and not have an issue. In this case, I do have plenty of material. So I'm just going to go ahead and reload my material back in. And I'll just make sure that I pull it far enough down from where I've cut that text by accident where the material went off track. That's one of the good reasons why it's always best to pre-feed the length of your job. And so what I mean by that is just advancing the pinch rollers out, making sure nothing's going to come off track for the length of your job. And then when you do that, you can have more confidence that you're not going to have an issue like I just had. So let me set my origin up again and just resend the job. No big deal, other than a little bit of wasted vinyl. I don't like to do that, but it happens. And while that's cutting, let me see if you guys are laughing at me or asking questions. Yeah, so Ken says, I didn't see the original question, but servo more powerful, more precise cutting. So yeah, I see Gosta asked a fast word about stepper versus servo motor on a vinyl cutter. So a servo motor is going to be more powerful. It's also going to hold your material flat. So usually it's not only more powerful on cutting, it's a more powerful fan that holds your material flat, which makes for easier weeding as well. You're not getting those skips on the corners that sometimes you get with a stepper motor. It's also a lot quieter when you're cutting your design with a servo motor cutter. So if you can afford it, definitely go servo motor. It's going to allow you to cut any variety of materials, including some pressure-sensitive twill materials, really thick products, rhinestone templates, really thin, stretchy products. And then Sean asked, while we're waiting on this to cut, what is the best way to print a transfer, a difficult picture for print in cut? And so there are a few different ways to do a digital transfer. I mentioned stretch litho earlier as a digital screen printed transfer would be a great way. Another way is a print cut product that we call CAD prints. Another way is to have your own printer cutter and load that material and print and cut your design and then weed it. And then there are certainly what I like to call instant transfers with like the Oki white printers or desktop inkjet printers. Sublimation certainly great if you're going to a polyester fabric. So there's a lot of ways to print digitally. Maybe we'll talk about that Thursday. That sounds like a good topic, and I'll make sure I have some samples explaining the differences between that. So this design's done cutting. I'm going to go in vector cut, and I'm going to select my other color in my text for my thermofilm product. And I'm also going to cut my hat design out of thermofilm. So I'm going to select all of those. I'll bring this design down so it can cut on my material. I'm not going to move anything about the pink and black design. So all in all, I have a couple inches of material here to cut. So while I'm preparing that to cut, I'm going to go ahead and pull this material out and load my thermofilm. My thermofilm's cutting. We'll be able to weed this one here in just a moment. Thermofilm comes in a 15-inch wide roll or a 20-inch wide roll. If you haven't tried this product before and you want to get into sports, I certainly would recommend that you give this one a shot. It is our top selling material, believe it or not, still. After all of these years, sports teams still love thermofilm because of its durability. And again, I love it from a fashion element because of its texture and what you can accomplish with it. So going to load my thermofilm, lock this down. It is a quite bit thicker than the metallic, so I will have to increase my force on my machine and do a test cut. I hardly ever change my blade depth. I know a lot of people change their blade depth a lot. In my opinion, when your blade depth, you want it to be about a half of a credit card's thickness, really the thickness of the material you're cutting. But half a credit card's thickness covers mostly everything. And then once you do that, you're able to just change it through downforce. So I brought that force up to about 24 to do a test cut and see how that goes. Looks to be pretty good. It pulled out the detail there. And so I'm happy with that. It's scoring the carrier just slightly. So I'm going to go ahead and send my cut job to thermofilm. After I set my point of origin. And I'll learn from my last mistake. I'm going to feed that out the length that my job is, which was about 10 inches. Yeah, more than enough. And that's one of the benefits of the GraphTech. It really tracks straight. So now that I have the thermofilm loaded, I'm going to go ahead and send my cut job. And the machine that I'm using is the GraphTech CE6000. So I'm just trimming apart my other design. And then I'll show you the weeding process here. I'm trimming out every scrap I can that's left over on the side because I can cut that later. Save every material. That would work even for a hat design or sleeve design, something like that. So we have our design here that's been cut, and then I'm just going to complete the weeding process. The metallic product is pretty easy to weed. I guess it's all relative to what you're used to weeding and like weeding. It's certainly not as easy if you're familiar with thermofilm as just weeding big names and numbers, but for a thin, kind of high-end material, I think it's pretty nice. I always say slow and steady wins the race. When you're weeding thin products, if you weed too fast, they end up stretching and breaking, and then you just have a lot more cleanup to work. But if cleanup work to do, but if you take your time and weed it, then you can just go back in and peel out the centers. Even on this small text design, it's really easy to get in here. I'm using the Stahls Easy Weeder, which is a tool that we sell over on stahls.com to be able to complete this and clean up the design. Now, because of my issue that I had earlier with the cut line, I want to be careful. So I always like to look at it from this side. You're seeing some fine little pieces up here that would transfer over to my garment. And so when I look at it from this side, this will help me clean up those pieces. Now the thermofilm is complete. I'm going to let you take a look. We'll trim that off real quick and then we'll weed it. Oh my gosh, I'm really on a roll today. I'm facing you talking, and the whole thermofilm roll has come off track while I'm talking. Sorry, guys. This usually doesn't happen to me, but today must be my day. But we will keep fighting through it. So let me reset that up and resend it and see what happened. While I'm doing that, I'll look for questions. All right, so I have the origin set. Got to go slowly through all of my stuff. I have my design on the screen. I'm going to watch it this time. I'm going to send my cut job. And there should be no reason. And we have success this time. All right. Thanks for sticking with me. Yeah, so Dax asked the question, is there a way to cut scraps on the cutter? There absolutely is. You can load even a piece this small onto your cutter and then be able to just adjust those pinch rollers in. And if you're using a professional grade cutter like I am, typically you're going to just tell it that there's a sheet loaded instead of a roll, and it will read the dimensions of this sheet and tell you what space is available to cut on your control panel. If you're using like a craft cutter, it's really easy because you just put it on the cutting mat. And what I learned earlier from doing these is some people are even use the cutting mats on their professional cutters. So that would be a way to be able to do more smaller scraps and detailed work. So I'm glad I'm not the only one that has fails during a live. Yes. Is there a chart that shows what vinyl products can be layered? So while I'm preparing to weed that, let me just show you that. It's right here on any of the product pages on stahls.com. When you go to stahls.com and you go to whatever heat transfer product, so let's just say thermofilm, for instance, there is something called a material combination chart that's right under this user guide tab. So you're just going to click user guide, and then it will give you combination chart where you can select your foreground material that you want to lay on top of thermofilm or the background material that you want to put thermofilm on. And when you select that product, whatever your combination is, it will give you the application instructions that we've put through our lab. All right, so let me come back and we will cut that piece off of the cutter. So this is Vegas Gold. In our thermofilm, Vegas Gold is one of our more popular new colors that people have been requesting for a while because it's popular in sports. So I'm going to trim that off, and we'll grab our thermofilm piece and then complete the weeding. Let's give you a look here. So after this, I'm going to, this material does have a sticky backing as well, as did the metallic. So if you accidentally lift up a piece, you can always position it back down. But after this, I'm going to show you exactly how to figure out how much this design will cost you as well, assuming you don't waste a ton of material in time and you have your cutting and weeding time pretty dialed in. So this is the small text that was in there. You can see it even cut that level of detail. That's going to be the design I'm going to try on my hats that I mentioned earlier. And then I'd like to trim them apart while I'm at the table and clean up everything. That way when I get over to the press, I have a design that's ready to go. Okay. I'm going to move over to my heat press view. And again, we are still at the 300 degrees on my settings. I still have the 16 by 20 platen loaded, and I'm going to load my garments. This is a high-end, I think it's called Soybu Performance Tee. S&S used to sell these. I checked this morning to try to figure out, actually Jenna checked for me to figure out how much this costs, and it looks like they're not carrying this line anymore, but at least you'll get the concept of pressing performance wear with mixed media. So some of the challenges with pressing performance wear, of course, is the scorching. So I'm going to reduce the pressure. I was pressing the screen printed transfer on this with heat transfer film. Typically, I only need a medium pressure on most heat transfer films, but the process is really easy. I've cut my design, assuming I've cut and weeded everything right. I should be able to just position this down. And then I always like to hold up this design and just to make sure it's going to fit in exactly where I think it should, and take a look at that. So I'll peel that off now. And that just helps me with my alignment. I like to see both colors together before I press the design. And then I'm able to heat apply. So as I'm thinking about this, the metallic is a cold peel and the thermofilm is a hot peel. So if you are working with mixed media designs with two different products, it's probably going to be better for me to do the hot peel first. That's going to save me time at the heat press because I can just press this, peel the carrier, and then line up the cold peel before I move the whole thing from the heat press. So let's start with that. I'm just going to press thermofilm for a few seconds to get it to hold down. Then I'm going to peel the carrier. And then I'm going to grab my second color and then just align that directly inside of the first color. Again, if you do a good job at just limiting the amount of time for the first application, alignment should be pretty easy. Often what you get is shrinking of that bottom layer because you pressed it too long. So just be careful with that. Now, I did just tack this, but I didn't inspect my thermofilm piece that good, so I have a small piece that applied here onto the side. We'll talk about how to remove that here in a moment. So this cold peel transfer, the metallic is covering my complete thermofilm design. That is why I do not need a cover sheet. Otherwise, I would definitely use a cover sheet here. So the metallic takes 300 degrees. I think it's actually 290 for 10 to 15 seconds. And again, it's a cold peel, so I'm going to press it. I'm going to remove it completely from the press, let it cool down before I peel the backing. All right, so we'll let that cool and then we'll give you a look. As I mentioned, I wanted to also do a hat. So I've come up with this design out of thermofilm that I'm going to try to put on a hat without a hat press. So I have these unstructured caps, and you can get an unstructured caps from a variety of sources. This is a District brand from Sanmar that I had. And so to do this, I want to hit this location if I can on the hat, sort of the bottom left. You see that print location a lot. I'm going to remove my 16 by 20 platen. And I'm going to load my shoe platen to be able to do it. So we pressed shoes on here last week, I believe it was, where I customized my shoes. This time we're going to use the shoe platen to try to hit a print location on a hat. And so I'm just going to take the hat. I have a hair tie or a rubber band, something like that, to try to get rid of the bill. So I'm going to just put this around the bill to kind of contain it so I don't have to keep messing with it. And then I'm going to just load it on as if it were a shoe, right? Which is just kind of loaded on. And then I am able to get to this front left print location as well. Now, you have to be careful on what areas you're going to be able to reach pressure with, and make sure that you are kind of keeping everything else out. And so that's why I like to keep a rubber band or a hair tie handy, because that's going to allow you to secure this other part and get it out of the way. So I'm going to try preheat here, and that's going to allow me to adjust my pressure as well. Because I have a little bit more seam structure up on here, I'm just going to do a little bit more pressure. Unstructured caps are very forgiving. They're usually cotton or cotton twill material. I certainly wouldn't want to do this with a performance cap or an acrylic cap. So your cap selection is going to be really important. But once I have that loaded into place, I'm going to just position my design as best I can, making sure it's all going to get pressure. And then heat apply for the time, temperature, and pressure. With hats, typically it's not an item that's going to be laundered, so you have a little bit more flexibility with your application. But again, thermofilm doesn't take long to apply. And if you see that there was a location on the hat where you need to move and be able to get to, you can always support that as long as you're holding low enough and be able to just maneuver the hat to be able to heat and reheat stuff. That won't mess up your initial application at all. So a hat press is always the easiest way, but for those of us that don't have hat presses or hat presses available to us, this is an effective way to be able to do something like this, to be able to put a design on the hat, hit a location that's almost over center. So really cool. The side location, of course, would be no problem. The back location is no problem, but I wanted to challenge myself and see if I could get up over center a little bit. So when you're maneuvering, I would recommend you just give it a little bit more time, a little bit more temperature and pressure than you normally would. And as long as you don't have a heat sensitive hat, you should be able to customize that just fine. I'm going to bring you back down here for our reveal of our shirt. And then I'll stay on for a few questions before we conclude. Okay, so again, this is our finished design. It's a cold peel, so that metallic, once it's cooled down, should peel very nicely for you. Always peel corner to corner if you can. And I have a completed result. So looks great, feels great on the garment. The only mistake I made, other than having the material go off track, of course, is there's just a tiny little piece that gets you sometimes when you're trimming apart designs. Sometimes you see that on the top, etc. But there's a little piece of thermofilm. So how you remove that is Stahls has a product called lettering remover, and we also carry the vinyl lettering remover. It's a VLR product. And it's a liquid that you just apply to the inside of the garment, and it will help to break down the adhesive. Really, you just need a Q-tip or a small amount. It'll loosen up that adhesive, and then you're able to peel off the piece of vinyl transfer that you don't want. So that is available from Stahls. You can call into our customer service line to get it. So at the end of it, I appreciate everybody encouraging me. Thanks so much for the compliments. We're all learning together. And appreciate your encouragement as we make mistakes occasionally. And that's why we do this, and we do it live so we can all learn. So the question is, Denise asked, can I get the shoe platen to fit my autoclam? Yes. Yeah, the shoe platen will definitely fit an autoclam. It's just a matter if you have a quick change autoclam, which is this one with the quick change lever underneath that has this lever right underneath, then that's going to make it easier for you to change out. But even the old style of Hotronics autoclam, you can change out from underneath the press as well. All right, let's stay around for a couple more questions. We did link to the lettering remover, so hopefully You got that. Dax says for performance wear, should the vinyl usually be stretchy? So like this is performance wear that I'm wearing. I wouldn't worry about using a stretchy vinyl on this because it's loose fit. But certainly if you're decorating like stretch leggings or compression gear or something like that, then I would look for a high stretch vinyl to do that. All right. And I'll come back and I'll look at all the questions. I know there was a lot of conversation as we were going through today. So hopefully you enjoyed this start to finish project with being able to do a quarantine and chill shirt with a knockout effect. Make sure I give you a good close up of that knockout effect. It's tough to see with the lighting, where you can see that mountain range coming through the text, combining thermal film and our CAD cut metallic product off of our vinyl cutter. Also our hat that we're able to customize, our unstructured cap on our heat press. And then our ElastiPrint transfer, of which I never remembered to peel the back, that's been heat applied with a front left chest logo. We talked a little bit about placement as well as a back logo on this J America garment. So as always, thanks for watching. Jenna will be live streaming tomorrow at 9 a.m. and I'll be back with you Thursday with another project. So please complete the survey, share your feedback, and have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much.